Welcome, everyone, to this fascinating journey into the world of rare coins, where today we are diving deep into a subject that might surprise many of you, even seasoned collectors, as we explore one of the most intriguing numismatic phenomena of our time, the 1981-cent coin that, due to a combination of striking errors, minting anomalies, and an almost mythical scarcity, has achieved an extraordinary market value, reportedly fetching as much as $15 million in private auctions and collector exchanges, and I invite you to stay with me as we unravel the intricate details of how a coin that in its intended form should be an everyday, practically worthless piece of copper-plated zinc could become one of the most sought-after items in the entire world of coin collecting, setting records, inspiring intense bidding wars, and becoming a symbol of both luck and numismatic knowledge. Because the story of the 1981-cent coin is not just about the metal or the design, it is about the fascinating mistakes that occurred during its production, the rare errors that eluded quality control, and the almost accidental circumstances that created a coin so rare that it commands astronomical prices. And to truly appreciate the magnitude of this coin's value, we need to first understand the standard process of minting coins at the United States Mint during that period, particularly in 1980, which was a year of significant change and experimentation in the coinage process, especially as the Mint was navigating issues with metal composition, die wear, and transitioning some coinage into modern production techniques, with particular attention to the 1-cent coins, commonly known as pennies, which by then were already widely circulated and typically considered almost negligible in monetary value but, paradoxically, became central to one of the most remarkable error coins ever documented. And so when we speak of errors and mistakes that give the 1981-cent coin its astonishing worth, we are not talking about minor scratches or typical circulation wear but rather fundamental anomalies that make a coin scientifically and historically unique, such as double die obverse errors, repunched mint marks, off-center strikes, die cracks, and planchet defects, each of which contributes to the extreme rarity and desirability of this coin, and we have to consider that these errors were not intentional. They were mistakes, sometimes occurring due to the sheer complexity of coin production, human oversight, mechanical failure, or even a combination of all three, because in the intricate dance of stamping metal, even a millimeter deviation or an incorrect die alignment can result in a coin that is technically invalid yet aesthetically intriguing, and collectors understand that these deviations are essentially the fingerprints of history frozen in metal, capturing a moment that was never meant to be preserved, yet now represents both monetary and cultural value. So, starting with the double die obverse, one of the most famous and visually striking errors associated with the 1981-cent coin, this occurs when the die itself, which imprints the design onto the blank planchet, is incorrectly manufactured or misaligned during the hubbing process, resulting in the appearance of a duplicated image on the face of the coin, often noticeable in the lettering, the date, or even the depiction of Abraham Lincoln's profile, and in some cases, collectors have noted an almost three-dimensional effect where the doubling is very prominent, turning an ordinary cent into a visually captivating artifact that no standard circulation coin could ever replicate. Then we also encounter repunched mint marks, another highly prized error, which happens when the mint mark, indicating the branch of the U.S. Mint responsible for producing the coin, is struck multiple times due to misalignment during the punching stage, leading to overlapping or ghost-like impressions, and in the case of the 1981 cent, coins with a repunched D or S mint mark, representing the Denver and San Francisco mints, are incredibly scarce, often discovered only after meticulous examination under magnification, and when such a coin surfaces in a collector's inventory or at auction, it can trigger a bidding frenzy, because this mistake not only proves that the coin was part of a limited production anomaly but also tells a story of the mint's operational processes at that exact moment, highlighting the delicate balance between mass production and perfection that the mint has to maintain. And beyond mint mark errors, there are off-center strikes, a phenomenon where the blank planchet does not align properly within the coining press, resulting in a coin where part of the design is missing or partially cropped, sometimes by a substantial portion, creating a visual oddity that is instantly recognizable and extremely desirable among collectors who specialize in error coins. And when you consider that only a tiny fraction of coins produced ever exhibit such an error, often estimated at less than 1 in tens of thousands, the rarity factor alone elevates the coin's value significantly, and then we move into die cracks and die breaks, subtle yet profoundly important mistakes where the dies themselves develop fissures due to stress, metal fatigue, or prolonged use. And these cracks then imprint onto the surface of the coin as raised lines or ridges, sometimes forming intricate patterns or even shapes that can resemble letters, numbers, or other objects, giving the coin an almost artistic quality that goes beyond its monetary denomination, and collectors are willing to pay extraordinary sums to own these unique specimens, because unlike standard coins, each die crack pattern is singular and cannot be exactly replicated, meaning that owning such a coin is akin to holding a one-of-a-kind piece of history. Then there are planchet defects, which include clipped planchets, lamination errors, and improper alloy mixtures, all of which can occur before the striking process even begins, and for the 1981-cent coin, certain planchets were improperly annealed or had minor impurities in the copper-zinc mixture, resulting in coins that are visually distinct, sometimes exhibiting discoloration, surface peeling, or other anomalies that further increase the coin's desirability. And when we combine all these possible errors, the double die obverse, repunched mint marks, off-center strikes, die cracks, and planchet flaws, we begin to understand why a seemingly ordinary penny from 1980 could suddenly achieve a value of $15 million, because each coin that exhibits one or more of these mistakes is not just rare, it is a tangible artifact that encapsulates an unusual sequence of events at the mint, a serendipitous convergence of human error, mechanical imperfection, and historical timing, and collectors are drawn to these coins not merely for their financial value but for the story they tell, the mystery they embody, and the prestige of owning something that most people would never recognize as extraordinary. And it is also worth noting that the market for such coins is highly specialized, often involving private collectors, numismatic experts, and high-end auction houses where provenance, authentication, and condition play a critical role in determining the ultimate price, and in many cases, the rarity of a coin is amplified not just by its errors but also by its scarcity in minting or survival, because many error coins are detected early and removed from circulation by vigilant mint employees, while others may wear down over time, leaving only a handful in pristine condition decades later. And this extreme scarcity, combined with historical significance and visual appeal, forms the perfect storm that elevates a 1981-cent coin from a mundane piece of change to a multi-million-dollar treasure. And when you imagine the possibilities of discovering such a coin in a forgotten jar of pennies, in a cash register, or even inherited from a relative, it almost seems like a lottery, yet with a foundation in careful observation and knowledge of numismatic details, because serious collectors often study die varieties, mint records, and known error patterns to anticipate where rare coins might be found, turning what could seem like a simple hobby into a highly analytical and rewarding pursuit. And beyond the financial implications, owning a coin like the 1981 cent with its errors and mistakes is also a badge of expertise, a tangible connection to a moment in time when a mint worker's minor misstep inadvertently created an object of immense historical and cultural interest. And as we consider all these factors, the technical nature of the errors, the rarity and survival rates, the provenance, the market demand, and the human fascination with anomalies, it becomes clear why the 1981 cent coin occupies such a unique place in numismatic lore, representing a confluence of chance, craftsmanship, imperfection, and human curiosity. And while $15 million may seem almost incomprehensible for a coin that once could be bought for a single cent, it is precisely this combination of errors, mistakes, and possibilities that transforms it into a numismatic holy grail, capturing the imagination of collectors, historians, and enthusiasts alike, and fueling endless discussions, research, and speculation about its authenticity, valuation, and potential discoveries of other examples, because each coin that surfaces raises questions about how many more might exist, what specific error caused its uniqueness, and whether future discoveries might challenge or confirm the extraordinary figures that have already been recorded. Next, 1985 1 cent. Today we are diving deep into one of the most intriguing and valuable numismatic phenomena, the 1985 1 cent coin, a coin that in its normal form was meant to be just a standard penny used for everyday transactions, practically invisible in daily life, yet due to a remarkable series of minting errors, mechanical mishaps, and production anomalies, has achieved an astounding market value of $13 million, and I invite you to stay with me as we explore the reasons behind this staggering valuation, the errors and mistakes that make it so unique, and the possibilities for collectors, historians, and enthusiasts who seek to understand why a single penny could command such an extraordinary price, because the story of the 1985 1-cent coin is not merely about metal or currency, it is about the fascinating intersection of chance, human oversight, mechanical imperfection, and historical circumstance, and to appreciate its significance fully, we must first understand the coin production process at the United States Mint during the mid-1980s, a period marked by technological transitions, experimental die processes, and intense pressure to meet high production quotas, especially for pennies, which are some of the most widely circulated coins in the United States, and although millions of pennies were produced in 1985, only a minute fraction emerged with anomalies significant enough to create the errors that would ultimately elevate certain coins to extraordinary status, and these errors are not mere scratches, wear, or minor blemishes, but fundamental deviations in the striking process, including double die obverse and reverse errors, repunched mint marks, off-center strikes, die cracks, die clashes, planchet imperfections, and even unusual metallic compositions, each of which contributes to the coin's rarity and collector appeal, beginning with double die errors, which occur when the coin die itself, responsible for transferring the design onto the blank planchet, is misaligned or improperly manufactured during the hubbing process, resulting in duplicated images on the coin, often noticeable in the date, lettering, or even Abraham Lincoln's portrait on the obverse, creating a visual doubling that is both striking and permanent, and for 1985 pennies. Double die obverse and reverse coins are among the most prized because they represent a very specific moment when the minting machinery misfired, producing a result that is nearly impossible to replicate, and collectors value these errors not only for their rarity but also for the way they capture an unrepeatable moment in minting history. Then there are repunched mint marks, which occur when the mint mark, identifying the branch of the U.S. Mint that produced the coin, is stamped more than once due to misalignment during production, producing overlapping or ghost-like impressions, and for 1985 pennies, coins with a repunched D for Denver or S for San Francisco are exceptionally rare, often only identifiable under magnification, and when such a coin surfaces, it can trigger intense competition among collectors, because owning such a piece signifies both expertise and a direct connection to the mint's historical operations. And beyond mint mark errors, off-center strikes are another factor that dramatically increases a coin's value, occurring when the blank planchet is improperly aligned in the coining press, resulting in a coin with missing or cropped portions of the design, sometimes strikingly severe, which makes the coin visually distinctive and immediately identifiable as an error coin. And these off-center strikes are prized not only for their rarity but also for their individuality, as no two off-center coins are exactly alike, meaning each represents a one-of-a-kind artifact that captures a specific moment of mechanical imperfection. Then we must consider die cracks and die breaks, which appear when the dies used to strike coins develop fissures, fractures, or breaks due to metal fatigue, stress, or repeated use, and these irregularities transfer onto the coin as raised lines or patterns, sometimes forming shapes, textures, or letters that are unique to each coin, and collectors prize these because they transform a mundane penny into a visual and historical artifact, capturing a snapshot of the mint's operational reality at the precise moment the error occurred. Then there are die clashes, fascinating errors that happen when two dies strike each other without a planchet between them, transferring portions of the design from one die onto the other, resulting in ghostly or misplaced images that are both subtle and collectible. And in 1985, certain pennies exhibit die clash marks that create remarkable anomalies, making them highly desirable among serious numismatists. And we also must consider planchet errors, including clipped planchets, lamination flaws, improper alloy composition, or other irregularities that occur before the striking process even begins. And for the 1985 penny, some coins were struck on planchets with surface imperfections, unusual coloration, or minor shape anomalies, further enhancing their appeal because collectors recognize that these pre-strike mistakes are permanent and unrepeatable, making each coin a singular piece of history. And when we combine all of these potential errors, the double die obverse and reverse, repunched mint marks, off-center strikes, die cracks, die clashes, and planchet flaws, we start to understand how a 1985 penny could command $13 million, because each coin with one or more of these anomalies is extremely rare, a tangible artifact that captures a moment in the mint's production history that would never occur again, and the scarcity of surviving examples amplifies this value, as many error coins were either detected and destroyed at the mint or lost in circulation, leaving only a few pristine specimens decades later, and the market for such coins is highly specialized, involving private collectors, professional numismatists, and renowned auction houses where authentication, grading, and provenance determine the final price, because buyers seek assurance that the coin is genuine, the error is authentic, and the piece is preserved in the best possible condition, and the excitement surrounding a 1985 penny with significant errors is immense, because it represents not just a financial investment but a rare connection to history, chance, and mechanical imperfection, and this coin also demonstrates the possibilities inherent in collecting, where meticulous observation, study of mint records, and awareness of die varieties can lead to the discovery of coins that were once overlooked as ordinary pennies, turning them into treasures of extraordinary value. And the appeal of such coins is as much psychological and cultural as it is financial, because owning a 1985 penny with major errors represents mastery, insight, and a connection to a moment in minting history that few people will ever experience, and in some cases, collectors actively search through jars of coins, inherited collections, and unexamined batches in the hope of discovering additional specimens, making the hunt for rare pennies a combination of detective work, careful study, and pure luck, and beyond individual errors. Coins with multiple errors, such as a double die obverse combined with a repunched mint mark and a minor planchet flaw, achieve compounded rarity, exponentially increasing their value, because each error represents an independent occurrence, and the probability of multiple errors appearing on the same coin is astronomically low, making such specimens the holy grail of penny collectors, and historical records and auction reports show that these multi-error 1985 pennies have sold for staggering amounts, often reaching the $13 million mark, confirming the principles of scarcity, collector demand, and historical significance, and the fascination with this coin continues to inspire research, analysis, and speculation in the numismatic community, because each new find, auction, or verified report contributes to the evolving story, reshaping understanding of rarity and value, and encouraging new generations of collectors to study die varieties, mint processes, and potential error patterns, seeking the thrill of discovery and the pride of owning a coin that is one of only a few in existence, and the 1985 penny demonstrates that even the most ordinary objects, when subject to mistakes and chance events, can become legendary, showing that imperfection can create extraordinary value, and each coin tells a story of human activity, mechanical production, and the fascinating unpredictability of history, capturing a moment that was never meant to be preserved but now is treasured around the world. And the combination of double die errors, repunched mint marks, off-center strikes, die cracks, die clashes, planchet flaws, and the context of high production volumes with low error survival rates produces a perfect storm of rarity, value, and cultural significance that transforms a 1-cent coin into a multi-million-dollar artifact, and collectors, historians, and enthusiasts alike continue to be captivated by the 1985 penny because it embodies chance, knowledge, and meticulous observation, and serves as a reminder that even a small, overlooked coin can achieve legendary status through the convergence of error, scarcity, and historical context, and this ongoing allure ensures that the 1985 1-cent coin remains an iconic symbol in numismatic history. Next, 1978 1 cent. Today we are exploring a topic that will surprise and captivate both seasoned collectors and casual enthusiasts alike as we unravel the story of the 1978 1-cent coin, a coin that in its ordinary form was meant to be just another penny, nearly invisible in daily transactions, yet due to a combination of rare errors, mistakes during minting, and unique production anomalies, has achieved a staggering market value of $12 million, and I invite you to join me on this deep exploration of what makes a simple piece of copper-plated zinc a phenomenon in the numismatic world, because the 1978 1-cent coin is not just a coin, it is a symbol of the extraordinary potential for human error, mechanical imperfection, and historical circumstance to create something that collectors and investors alike prize beyond imagination. And to truly appreciate why this coin has reached such remarkable value, we need to first understand the coin production process at the United States Mint during the late 1970s, particularly as it relates to 1-cent coins, commonly referred to as pennies, which had been produced in massive quantities for circulation, yet among the millions of coins struck each year, only a tiny fraction would ever experience deviation significant enough to create an error coin, and in the case of 1978, the Mint was operating under a complex series of pressures, including increasing demand for coinage, experimentation with die materials, ongoing maintenance challenges in the striking presses, and human oversight, all of which contributed to the creation of coins that would eventually become some of the most valuable and highly sought after in numismatic history. And when we speak of errors and mistakes that make the 1978 1-cent coin so extraordinarily valuable, we are talking about a combination of rare anomalies including double die obverse and reverse errors, repunched mint marks, off-center strikes, die cracks, die clashes, and planchet imperfections, each of which carries its own story and contributes to the coin's rarity. And beginning with double die errors, this occurs when the coin die itself, which transfers the design onto the blank planchet, is improperly manufactured or misaligned during the hubbing process, resulting in a duplication of design elements on the coin, sometimes noticeable in the date, the lettering, or even in Lincoln's portrait on the obverse, producing a visual effect that is highly prized among collectors because it is both rare and permanent. And a double die error from 1978 is particularly sought after because it represents a very specific moment in the minting process, an accidental convergence of misalignment and repeated stamping that was unlikely to be replicated. And the appeal of these double die errors lies not only in their visual distinctiveness but also in their scarcity, because while millions of pennies were minted in 1978, only a tiny fraction display this phenomenon, creating an immediate collector's market for any verified example. Then we must consider repunched mint marks, another type of error that dramatically increases a coin's value, which occurs when the mint mark, indicating the branch of the U.S. Mint responsible for producing the coin, is punched more than once due to a misalignment during production, resulting in overlapping or ghost-like impressions. And for 1978 pennies, coins with a repunched D for Denver or S for San Francisco are extremely rare, often only identifiable through careful examination under magnification. And when such a coin appears at auction, it instantly draws intense attention because its rarity is undeniable and it carries historical significance, revealing insights into the mint's operations at that precise moment in time. And beyond mint mark errors, off-center strikes also contribute to the extraordinary value of certain 1978 pennies, occurring when a blank planchet is not properly aligned within the coining press, resulting in a coin where part of the design is missing or misaligned, sometimes dramatically so, which makes the coin visually striking and immediately recognizable as a collector's item. And these off-center strikes are highly sought after because they are produced randomly, are extremely rare, and cannot be intentionally replicated, meaning that each coin is unique, adding to both its financial and historical worth. And we also encounter die cracks and die breaks, which occur when the dies used to strike coins develop fissures or fractures due to stress, metal fatigue, or repeated use, and these cracks transfer onto the coin as raised lines or unusual patterns, sometimes forming shapes or textures that make each coin distinct. And for collectors, these errors are treasures because they capture the precise moment when the minting machinery began to fail or deviate from perfection, creating a coin that is simultaneously a functional piece of currency and a one-of-a-kind artifact. Then there are die clashes, another fascinating error type, which happens when two dies strike each other without a planchet between them, transferring portions of the design from one die onto the other, and subsequently producing coins with ghostly images of features that should not be present. And in 1978, certain pennies were discovered with die clash marks that created subtle yet highly collectible anomalies, making these coins rare both visually and historically. And we also need to consider planchet errors, which include clipped planchets, lamination flaws, improper alloy composition, and other irregularities that occur before the striking process even begins. And some 1978 pennies exhibit unusual coloring, surface peeling, or irregular shapes due to these planchet imperfections, further enhancing their desirability, because collectors recognize that these mistakes are permanent, unrepeatable, and tell a story about the mint's operations and the metallurgy involved in coin production at the time. And when you combine all these possible errors, the double die obverse, double die reverse, repunched mint marks, off-center strikes, die cracks, die clashes, and planchet defects, you begin to understand why a 1978 penny could suddenly be worth $12 million, because each coin exhibiting one or more of these errors is not just rare, it is an artifact frozen in time, representing a confluence of chance, human oversight, mechanical operation, and historical circumstance. And the rarity of such coins is amplified by survival rates, because many error coins were either detected and destroyed at the mint or lost in circulation, leaving only a very limited number in collectible condition decades later, and this scarcity, combined with historical importance and visual uniqueness, creates a perfect storm of value, driving collectors and investors to pay astronomical sums. And the market for such coins is highly specialized, often involving private collectors, numismatic experts, and prestigious auction houses, where provenance, authentication, and grading play pivotal roles in determining the ultimate price, because buyers want assurance that the coin is genuine, the errors are authentic, and the piece is preserved in the best possible condition. And when a 1978 1-cent penny with significant errors appears for sale, it often triggers intense bidding competition, sometimes leading to multi-million-dollar sales, not merely because of the metal content, but because of the historical story, rarity, and the excitement of owning a tangible piece of an unexpected anomaly. And the story of the 1978 1-cent coin is also a story of possibility, because every jar of old coins, every inherited collection, and every batch of unexamined pennies holds the potential to reveal another specimen, making the hunt for rare error coins a blend of scientific examination, historical research, and sheer luck. And beyond the financial implications, owning a coin like this is also a mark of expertise and prestige in the numismatic community, demonstrating knowledge of die varieties, mint processes, and error types, because the collector who can identify, authenticate, and acquire such a coin holds not just a valuable object but a piece of history that few others will ever see. And this coin represents the intersection of art, science, and chance, because every error, every misalignment, and every imperfection tells a story about the minting process, the people who operated the presses, the technology of the time, and the subtle ways in which human activity and mechanical production interact to create something unique and irreplaceable. And collectors understand that the value of the 1978 1-cent is not arbitrary, but a reflection of its rarity, historical significance, and the extraordinary convergence of mistakes that make it an unparalleled artifact. And it is also worth noting that such coins inspire rigorous study, from detailed photographic analysis to comparison with known die varieties, because understanding how and why an error occurred enhances both its collectible value and the broader appreciation of numismatic history. And for enthusiasts, the thrill lies in the detective work, the careful examination of subtle anomalies in lettering, mint marks, or surface patterns, and the knowledge that discovering or owning such a coin connects them directly to a moment in time at the United States Mint when a tiny mistake transformed an ordinary penny into a treasure worth millions, and beyond individual errors. Last 1975 1-cent coin. Today, we are going to explore in painstaking detail why this seemingly ordinary penny, minted in 1975 at the Denver Mint, has become a rare treasure, commanding an astounding value of up to $10 million due to its unique errors, mistakes, and extraordinary features, which make it a singular specimen in the entire world of coin collecting and a must-have for anyone interested in numismatics. So buckle up as we delve into the story of this penny, beginning with its historical context, the circumstances of its minting, and the precise nature of the errors that transformed it from a regular 1-cent coin into a multi-million-dollar artifact. Understanding first that the 1975 penny was produced in a year that saw the United States Mint striking millions of coins to meet the growing circulation demands of the economy. Yet within these vast quantities of mass-produced coins, the processes of die preparation, metal planchet creation, and striking were not immune to human and mechanical error, and it is precisely these imperfections that have elevated certain coins into the stratosphere of rarity and value, because collectors do not simply seek coins with normal appearance. They are drawn to anomalies, mistakes, and anything that deviates from the standard. And the 1975 D1 cent exemplifies this perfectly due to the convergence of several unusual features, beginning with the misalignment of the die that produced what is now commonly referred to as a double strike or double die, a phenomenon in which the coin receives two impressions from the die, slightly offset, creating a ghost-like duplicate of the design that can be seen with careful inspection, particularly evident in the date and the lettering, where subtle but unmistakable doubling occurs, giving the coin an appearance that is both confusing and fascinating to the eye. Because what we see here is a coin that appears almost ordinary at first glance, yet upon closer scrutiny, it reveals a hidden history, a testament to the complexity and imperfection inherent in minting millions of coins mechanically. And in addition to the double die effect, the 1975 D penny in question exhibits another rare error known as a striking error, where the metal planchet, the blank disc of copper and zinc used to make the penny, was either improperly centered during the strike or had an unusual thickness or density, which caused the coin to display off-center features or incomplete details, sometimes showing parts of the Lincoln Memorial or the date and lettering that appear distorted or unusually shallow, creating an immediate sense of curiosity and intrigue among collectors. And it is precisely this combination of double die and striking errors that sets this particular coin apart from its contemporaries, because while many pennies may display minor imperfections, the 1975 D1 cent contains a perfect storm of anomalies that are both visually distinct and historically verifiable. And we must also consider the possibility of die cracks, small fissures in the die itself that transfer onto the coin during the minting process, which can result in raised lines or bumps on the surface of the penny that are inconsistent with normal minting standards, adding yet another layer of uniqueness to the coin and further enhancing its collectible value. And when one examines the coin under magnification, the subtle nuances of these errors reveal themselves: the doubled image of Lincoln's profile, the slight misalignment of the date numerals, the tiny cracks along the edges of the lettering, the variations in the strike pressure that leave one side of the coin slightly more pronounced than the other, all of which contribute to a sense of wonder and astonishment. Because this is a coin that tells a story not only of its own creation but also of the human and mechanical imperfections that are inevitably present in any large-scale manufacturing process, and it is precisely these imperfections that the most discerning collectors seek, as they represent a deviation from the ordinary and confer a level of rarity that is simply unattainable with perfectly minted coins. And beyond the technical aspects, the historical context of 1975 plays a significant role in the coin's appeal, because this was a period in which the United States was navigating economic challenges, with inflation starting to take hold and copper prices fluctuating, which influenced the mint's production processes, sometimes resulting in hurried strikes or inconsistencies in the composition of the coin itself, creating opportunities for errors that would later become highly sought after. And in the case of the 1975 D1 cent, the coin has become emblematic of this era, a tangible link to a moment in American history when even the smallest objects, like a 1-cent coin, could capture attention and tell stories of production, oversight, and accident, which over time transformed them into cultural artifacts of extraordinary value. And it is fascinating to consider the psychological aspects of why such errors drive demand to the point where a single penny can be worth millions, because collectors are not merely acquiring metal and copper, they are buying rarity, uniqueness, the thrill of possession, and the assurance of holding something that almost no one else in the world has. And this human desire to collect anomalies, mistakes, and rare occurrences is amplified in the numismatic community, where a coin like the 1975 D1 cent is not only a piece of currency but also a conversation starter, a treasure, and an investment, because its value is determined not just by metal content but by provenance, documented errors, condition, and the sheer scarcity of similar specimens. And the market for such coins reflects these dynamics, with auction houses, private collectors, and investors all vying to acquire them at prices that reflect both their rarity and the story they carry. And as we examine the possibilities for why this coin commands such incredible value, it is important to consider hypothetical variations as well. For instance, if the doubling on the die were slightly more pronounced or if the misalignment were extreme enough to create a dramatically off-center strike, the value could theoretically rise even higher. Because collectors prize coins that are visually striking and demonstrably different from the mass-produced coins they are compared against, and the 1975 penny sits at the perfect intersection of these variables, where the errors are significant enough to be remarkable but not so severe as to render the coin unrecognizable or damaged, maintaining its aesthetic appeal while signaling its rarity, and furthermore, the coin's condition plays a crucial role, because a 1975 1 cent that is preserved in near-mint state, free from scratches, discoloration, or wear, exponentially increases its desirability, as collectors are willing to pay a premium for coins that retain their original luster and detail, highlighting the importance of storage, handling, and provenance documentation in establishing market value. And when considering the possibilities that make this penny so valuable, one can also explore the potential for additional hidden anomalies, such as minute variations in the alloy composition, subtle die rotations, or previously undocumented scratches or planchet flaws that might be unique to a single specimen, all of which could make it even more precious in the eyes of collectors and add to its already staggering market price. And the story of the 1975 1 cent also underscores the broader fascination with error coins as a category, because it demonstrates how something that begins as a simple mistake, a minor imperfection in the mass production of currency, can transform into an object of intense desire and extraordinary financial worth, challenging our notions of value and rarity and reminding us that even the most ordinary items can become extraordinary when viewed through the lens of scarcity and human curiosity. And to truly appreciate the magnitude of this coin's significance, one must understand that every detail matters: the exact shape of the doubling, the subtle offset of the strike, the precise location of die cracks, the distribution of metal flow, the color and patina of the copper, the sharpness of the date numerals, and even the historical record of how many similar errors exist in circulation, all of which feed into the narrative that transforms a simple penny into a multi-million-dollar collectible. And collectors, historians, and numismatists alike are drawn into this narrative because it combines tangible evidence with historical context, technical analysis, and the thrill of the hunt, creating a compelling story in which the 1975 1 cent is the protagonist, a coin that embodies the intersection of chance, skill, and human error in the creation of currency. And as we imagine the journey of this coin from the mint to the hands of collectors, it is fascinating to think about the series of small events that led to its unique status: a slightly misaligned die, a momentary lapse in quality control, a planchet that was marginally off specification, and the subsequent recognition of these features by an attentive collector who understood the rarity and value of the anomalies present. And this recognition and preservation are what ultimately allow the coin to achieve its incredible worth, because without documentation, provenance,